The purpose of this video is to try and help make a little bit more sense out of exactly how import is working and how we can utilize other people's code. In other words, in the past we have just kind of taken at face value, we import this random, and then we have to write the word random again, and we do the period and rand int, and then these are, well, now you should start to recognize that this is a method that's sending arguments. So we recognize that, but what's with all this random stuff? So let's see how that works. I'm going to comment that out. We can leave this import random in here. So here's how this idea works. Let's look at the second file I've created, file_2.py, and I've created two methods here, or two functions. One is called greeting. It's not receiving any arguments. There's no parameters here, and its job is simply to print something out. And here's a menu that its job is just to print out this menu system. Well, what if there's a person in our company whose job is to keep track of all of create menus that keeps track of all the things that are available to do in our code. And perhaps we also need to write a program, and in our program we think, oh, wouldn't it be nice if we could also include all those menu items? But that would be all great, but it doesn't make sense to copy and paste their code into ours. Because if we did, let's say we copied their code and we put it into ours, and it's yay, life is good, and then I write my program and it prints out the menu and life is great. Well, maybe tomorrow we also get another option. Maybe we're going to also get to go to a football game, and that needs to be incorporated into our menu. Let me see if I can spell it. Football game. There we go. And so now we have to, oh, well, I wrote my program that included that I didn't put a football game. Now I've got to hopefully heard about that and then go in and change. Well, that doesn't really make sense, does it? It would make a lot more sense if this person that's responsible for keeping track of the menu, if I could use this person's code whenever I in fact wanted to incorporate a menu. And that way if their menu changed, it would automatically change mine too. So that's the idea behind import, is that we want to utilize this person's code, so if it changes, or it'll automatically make the change in my code, and I don't have to worry about keeping it up myself because somebody else is responsible for that. And so the way that we can do that is, I'll just leave this import statement up with the random just for an example, but we're not going to be using it because obviously I have it commented out here. So what we'll do is we're going to import, and then we'll import the name of that file, which is file_.py. So if we import that file name, we don't have to use the .py. Now we have access to both of these methods. And so if I were to now do, I'll call the greeting. So I do file_2, just like we saw here, random, and then the dot and the method name. So we do a dot. The method name is greeting, so we're going to call the greeting. Then that should print from our code the greeting here. So let's run that and see if that works. And it did. So let's change this to menu, and we'll run the menu. Yay, it works. Oh, I guess I didn't save. So this is a good point. I didn't save this number 3 when I put it on the code. So I'm going to save it now. And now we should actually see that change take place in this code. It sure did. So you can start to see that whoever is responsible for keeping track of this menu, if they change, oh, they spelled movie wrong, not me. They spelled movie wrong. So now they correct the movie and save it. Because I'm utilizing their code, I can run it, and now my movie will be spelled correctly also. There we go. So I think you see how valuable this can be. Now there's lots of ways that we can import these functions. First of all, I get kind of tired of writing file2 all the time, so there's another way we can do this. Maybe I don't want to keep writing file2. Well, what you can do is do this syntax that says from file_2 import, and I'm going to say, let's just say specifically greeting. So what I've done now is I've said that I'm going to utilize from file2, I'm going to utilize this greeting method. So by doing that, I no longer have to put file2 in front. Now I can just put the word greeting, and with this syntax then this should work. So now I'll get the greeting. Oh, let's see, what did I do wrong? Oh, just no parentheses here, sorry. Import greeting, there we go. So from file2, import greeting, and then the parentheses go when I'm actually calling that function. So now let's try that. Okay. File2 is not defined. So this particular line is giving us an error. Let's verify that. Line 7 is here. And the reason line 7 is giving us an error is because we've changed our syntax. If I've left this line up, now I can do file2. So the point here is that in order to use menu then, I could do one of two things. I could, remember I'm using different syntax. Well, I could do file_2 import and then menu. So now I should be able to access menu with just menu. So now that should get rid of that error, and it does. Well, this is kind of verbose, this is strange. Well, the other thing I could also do is import asterisk. So now I can access either of those. So if I run that, I should get the same output. So there's different ways to utilize the import, and you can simply do like we've done with random, just import the file name. But if you import just the file name, then remember you have to put in the file name in front of the method. So if in this case, if I were just using import file2, I would need to put in the file name, file2 underscore, file_2 dot greeting, there we go. So then this would be correct. If I don't want to have to keep putting the file name in front of the method name, then I could use this from syntax. So from the file name, import, and if I name the methods directly, then I can access those methods without the file name. If I have more than one method, I could access all of them without the file name with the asterisk. So now I can get to both of those. So that's how import works, and now you kind of see the file behind the scenes, so to speak. So you understand what the dot is doing. The dot is referring to a method that's in that file. If we had put in, for example, a argument here, user name, and maybe we did a comma username, now we're required to send this greeting a parameter. So maybe I will put, or an argument, I will put my name. So now it should print out my name. Let's just try it and see what happens. Let's see, greeting type, greeting takes 0 on arguments. What did I do? Greeting takes a username, line 7. It's unhappy with line 7. And there's my line 7 greeting, and Kirsten should have worked. Maybe I didn't save it, so let me make sure I saved both of those because that should have worked. Run. There we go. So I just didn't save both of them when I put it in there. So now, and that's a good example, it's trying to let me know greeting takes an argument, is receiving 0 arguments, but is supposed to get 1 argument. So it was expecting an argument, and because I didn't save this file, it wasn't receiving it. So it was, the unsaved file was sending no arguments. The save file then sent a string into the parameter, and so then it printed out. So that's the way we use arguments in what we call libraries. And libraries are simply other people's code that they have written that we can use because it's easier to maintain, and it's more consistent. It fosters consistency.